I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Friends of San Ramon Creek is co-sponsoring this with the library. I'm Dick Aaron, a volunteer with Friends of San Ramon Creek. We have a creek survey up here. If any of you are interested in what's happening along the creeks in the area, we'd like to have your input. If you'd like to have nothing happen along the creeks, say so. If you want to have some footpaths along there or pocket parks, let us know, and we'll see if we can get the word up the ladder.
Also want to mention, I'm sorry, backyard wildlife, living with wildlife around you. We'll be here Tuesday, July 11th at 6:30 with Ira Gletz. That's the last presentation in this naturalist speaker series. So, July 11th, Tuesday.
We expect everybody that's here tonight to come back for that. We also would like for you to take a brochure, but I didn't bring enough for everybody, so if you want to know how to reach us, grab one. 4 years ago, I guess it was, John and I became closer buddies, friends, brothers, and the way we were able to do that was by working on a project on the summit of Mount Diablo, and we met some wonderful old veterans. It was a labor of love just to restore the beacon so that these guys, these old veterans, can be remembered on December 7th. So I don't know if how many of you know what the beacon's used for. John has some slides he's going to show. Ask questions as we go along. But at about 7:10, we've got to switch to a video because I want to show you the video that was produced of this project. So, how about it, John?
We're at it.
Oh, I didn't say John is a volunteer with Save Mount Diablo.
So is Dick.
And John is on the board of directors, as is Liz. And Save Mount Diablo sponsored the project up there. So we'll get to that a little bit.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for coming, everybody. Yeah, this is I guess everybody here knows and has heard about the beacon or perhaps has seen it on December 7th. And we connected with Pearl Harbor. And in fact, it wasn't really that way in its earliest stages. The famous Eye of Diablo it did not have a military history at all. It was for commerce and specifically for mail. Now this was the mid-20s and we did not have radar, and so they wanted to use these new airplane thingies to fly mail around, but they could only fly in the daytime. So in the earliest days, they would put mail on a plane during the day. The plane would fly all day long to the next stop, and of course, they're not flying very fast like today's planes. And they would land, and they'd take the mail off and put it on a train, and the train would drive all night. The next morning, they'd pick the mail up, put it on another plane, and the plane would fly. And they did not have a way to fly at night. These little planes with huge engines, all the gearheads in there would recognize that's just a giant engine for this little tiny plane. But that's how they did it. So they knew that they needed some sort of nighttime flying thing, no radar yet, and they started putting up beacons all across the country. Hundreds and hundreds of beacons, some as small as an acetylene flame. And they would be turned on at night, or they'd run 24 hours a day, whatever. And this one, of course, is just one route, roughly following Interstate 80, if you think about it. Obviously, there's no Interstate 80. It's actually following, for transportation buffs, it's actually following the old Lincoln Highway that was established in 1915. And
What a memory you have, John.
Huh?
What a memory you have.
You're getting old.
Can you read the postage rates?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So they had, there was one a southern route, or they went north and south, and so forth. And for the Pacific Coast, Standard Oil of California got interested in this whole thing too. Of course, airplanes have to buy gasoline. And Standard Oil of California, whose headquarters, as we all know at the time, was in San Francisco, they financed the purchase of 5 beacons, very large ones, compared to the ones that we had all across the country. They're sort of a standard size, about 1 million candle power. These beacons that Standard Oil financed, Seattle, Portland, Diablo, Montebello Hills, San Diego.
San Diego, yeah.
5 beacons. And so they were put up. Now this is a big deal at the time. This is an example of one of the beacons. I didn't remember, but the same stamp is in the video that you'll see later on tonight. Again, imagine these all over the country for pilots to fly the mail at night. So it was partly done by oil companies. It was partly done by the Department of Commerce. It was partly done by Boeing, the airplane company, to finance these. There was sort of a standard design, although there were all different sorts. Roughly a 70-foot tower with a little generating plant, or house with a generator in it to light the beacon. The paint and the numbers and so forth designated which beacon it was, and they were often put on a pad like this, pad for the powerhouse, pad for the tower itself, and an arrow in concrete pointing to the next tower. This is visual flight, folks. And he had them all over the place. Here's one example that's still standing at Mount Shasta. This is still here today. This is off Google Street View. Obviously, this is not 1928. But this is Richfield Oil, which of course became Arco. And sure enough, there's one that roughly followed Highway 99 up and down the Pacific coast through Washington, Oregon, and California. So what do we have around here now? We have a little quiz. We have a little quiz. I don't have a better aerial photo of this. This is off Google Earth. Anybody know where this one is? You notice we have the pads here, the tower was here, and this is an unusual one. There are 2 arrows pointing to the next one. Right?
Why is that?
Well, we don't know. But clearly, routes to the next spot. That shouldn't help much. Does that help?
Rioni's Ridge.
Lafayette.
Acalanes Ridge Open Space.
Yeah.
I was hoping Bob Simmons from Walnut Creek could be here tonight because he knows about this.
He's in Mallorca.
Yeah, he didn't come back. This is on Acalanes Ridge. These are the 2 arrows pointing to the northeast. It is not known, at least it's not known to me, where they point. Concord? They need to only be 10, 15 miles apart, you see. And so they couldn't, because again, we're using visual flight rules at night. And so where is the next one? Probably somewhere in Concord or Antioch or something like this. We don't know.
John, is there any historical protection for these?
No. Much of this is lost to time and so on. The concrete pads like that are all over the country, by the way. It's a hobby thing for pilots to search them out, just to get some hours into their small plane and find these old concrete pads.
Why didn't one point at Mount Diablo?
Different route. So anyways, Standard Oil got onto this. This is our tower, Standard Diablo. To give you a feel for the scale, the S there is 12 feet high. The D is 8 feet high. This plaque is this plaque. Again, Standard Oil Company of California built this, and it was 1928. Monte Diablo State Park did not yet really exist at that point. The summit was owned, in fact, Seth talked last month about Walter Frick briefly as the man who was most responsible for the formation of Monte Diablo State Park. In 1928, Walter Frick owned the summit, and Standard Oil had to ask him for permission to build this tower. Standard Oil made a big deal out of it. Here's March 1928. The Standard Oil Bulletin. Quiz time, any aviation buffs? This would be Chevron's or Standard Oil's plane. It's a Ford Trimotor. They only made a few of them at the time. An article in the San Francisco Chronicle. And notice this, Lindy to set Standard Oil lamps alight. And sure enough, this one and the one down in Los Angeles were lighted simultaneously by none other than, and that was in April of 1928. Now, it was the previous May, only 11 months previous, that he had flown across the Atlantic, which, by the way, was 90 years ago last month. So,
Deborah has a question.
oh, sorry.
How did you light them simultaneously?
We don't know. But
By a telegraph.
it was almost certainly by a telegraph.
carefully.
Almost certainly by, he was in Denver at the time.
Yeah.
So it was almost certainly by telegraph, but that detail is kind of lost. Imagine at the time, you know, Lindbergh was this international hero. So having flown to Paris, you know, that was a big deal. And he was barnstorming the country as this incredible celebrity. And to have had him light these two beacons was a significant deal. Here's how they were used. You recognize the Bay Area, of course, and the beacon here, and these are compass bearings. So the pilot would know, as he flew toward the beacon on Monte Diablo, he could look down at his compass and use these bearings to fly to the appropriate airport. Note that Chrissy Field in San Francisco is still here, right? So the beacon shown, there were some technological wonders about it, a lamp-changing mechanism, an astronomical clock that would turn on the beacon at sunset, turn it off at sunrise, even compensating for leap year. And then in 1939, well, all through the 30s on Monte Diablo, we had the CCC working. Seth mentioned the CCC last month, building of stone fireplaces and the walkways and trails and so forth. They also built the Summit building. That was their pride, you know, their pièce de résistance when they built that. So in 1939, the tower, which is was at the west end of the upper parking lot. We've all been to the Summit at some point. West end of the parking lot. And they took the beacon down, disassembled the tower, and started doing this. This is one of my favorite photos. You can see the pile of rock. And of course, the Summit building is stone, right? And the old cars, and the building is no longer there. This observation tower that's exactly at the summit was built by Walter Frick. He was encouraging tourists to come up and visit the mountain. But the fun part to me is, this is the shadow of the tower and the beacon. So you know where the photographer was standing. How else would you get a shot like this? Right?